Someone questions your decision at work, and suddenly you're explaining yourself for 5 minutes. Someone doesn't text back, and you check your phone again. Another man succeeds, and instead of being impressed, you immediately wonder what that says about you. None of these moments look serious, but they can reveal something deeper, because insecurity doesn't always look like weakness. Sometimes it looks like arrogance, sometimes aggression, sometimes silence, sometimes trying way too hard to prove that you don't care. And the dangerous part is this: you can build an entire personality around hiding insecurity without realizing you're doing it. So how do you know? There are 7 habits that expose it, and the last one reveals the deeper problem behind all 6. The Stoics understood something most men learn too late. Your strength doesn't come from controlling how people see you. It comes from controlling what you do with what happens. Epictetus separated what belongs to us from what doesn't. Your judgments, choices, and actions are yours. Your reputation, other people's opinions, and their reactions are not. That sounds simple, but watch what happens when a man forgets it. Sign 1. You constantly seek validation. You accomplish something, then immediately look around to see who noticed. You post the workout, check the likes, make a decision, ask 5 people if it was the right one, say something, then watch everyone's reaction to see whether they approved. The problem isn't enjoying praise. The problem is needing praise to feel valuable. Now your confidence has a remote control, and everyone else is holding it. A Stoic doesn't refuse recognition. He simply refuses to make recognition the foundation of his identity. The question changes from, "Did they approve of me?" to, "Did I act well?" Because if your self-respect rises and falls with other people's reactions, you aren't in control of your self-respect. And that leads to a habit that's even easier to miss. Sign 2. You over-explain yourself. Someone asks why you made a decision. You don't give an answer. You give a courtroom defense. You explain what happened, why you did it, what you meant, what they misunderstood, and why they shouldn't think badly of you. You're no longer communicating. You're trying to control their perception of you, and that's impossible. You can clarify the truth. You cannot climb inside another person's mind and force them to interpret you correctly. The Stoic response is not, "I don't care what anyone thinks." It's more disciplined than that. I'll explain what needs explaining. After that, their judgment belongs to them. A man who can tolerate being misunderstood doesn't need to turn every conversation into a defense of his identity. But if you constantly need people to understand your value, there's an even more obvious way you may be trying to prove it. Sign 3. You constantly prove yourself. The money, the accomplishments, the connections, the physique, the stories about how hard you work. None of those things are bad. The question is why you need everyone to know. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly warned himself against becoming consumed by fame and appearance. The point wasn't to become invisible. It was to stop confusing reputation with character. There's a simple test. Would you still do the work if nobody knew? Would you still train if nobody saw your body? Would you still succeed if nobody applauded? If the answer is no, part of your discipline may actually be performance. Build quietly. Let your behavior become the evidence. Because the man who constantly proves his value is often telling you that he isn't convinced of it himself. And nothing exposes that uncertainty faster than comparison. Sign 4. You measure yourself against other men. He makes more money. You feel behind. He's stronger. You feel smaller. He's more successful with women. You feel threatened. He gets promoted. You immediately start explaining why he doesn't deserve it. Now another man's life has become a verdict on yours. The Stoics rejected that entire measurement system. Another man's wealth isn't proof of your poverty. Another man's success isn't proof of your failure. You can study someone, learn from him, even compete with him, but you don't need to turn his victory into your humiliation. The next time another man wins, ask a different question. What can I learn from what he did? That turns comparison into information instead of insecurity. But some men don't compete openly. They simply change themselves to keep everyone happy. Sign 5. You can't say no. You agree when you disagree. You tolerate behavior you resent. You avoid difficult conversations because you don't want anyone upset with you. Then you go home angry at the same people you were too afraid to disappoint. That's not kindness. That's approval dependence. A Stoic doesn't need everyone to like him because his standards cannot be based on universal approval. Sometimes courage means saying no. Sometimes justice means confronting someone. Sometimes self-control means refusing to become cruel just because you're angry. You can be respectful without being submissive. You can be kind without being controllable. And when you finally stop needing everyone's approval, something else becomes possible. You stop reacting every time someone challenges you. Sign 6. Criticism or disrespect controls your emotions. Someone insults you. Your heart starts racing. You fire back. Hours later, you're still replaying the conversation. You're planning what you should have said. You imagine what you'll say next time. The person may have spent 30 seconds thinking about you. You've given them 3 hours of your mind. That's the real cost of reactivity. The Stoic question isn't, how do I make sure nobody disrespects me? You can't. The question is, what judgment am I adding to what happened? They insulted you. That's an event. I've been humiliated and now I have to restore my status. That's your judgment. Separate the two. If the criticism is true, correct yourself. If it's false, don't become false trying to defeat it. Your strongest response isn't always silence. Sometimes it's a calm answer. Sometimes it's a boundary. Sometimes it's walking away. The point is that you decide. And that brings us to the deepest sign of all. Sign 7. You constantly need permission to make your own decisions. You ask everyone what they think. You research endlessly. You delay. You second guess. You want certainty before you act. But underneath all that may be something uncomfortable. You don't want to be responsible for being wrong. Because if someone else approved the decision, failure doesn't feel completely yours. But Stoicism puts responsibility back where it belongs, in your own judgment and choices. Gather the facts, think clearly, make the best decision you can. Then accept that the outcome is never completely yours to command. That is maturity, not knowing you'll win, knowing you can handle the consequences of choosing. And now the 7 signs connect. Validation, over-explaining, proving, comparison, people-pleasing, reactivity, permission-seeking. They look different, but they're all symptoms of the same problem. You're asking the outside world to tell you who you are. The insecure man says, "Do they respect me?" The Stoic asks, "Did I act with integrity?" The insecure man asks, "Do they approve?" The Stoic asks, "Was the decision mine to make?" The insecure man protects his image. The Stoic protects his character. That's the transformation. You don't become stronger by convincing everyone you're confident. You become stronger by needing less from the things you cannot control. The goal isn't to become a man who never feels insecure. It's to become a man who doesn't let insecurity make his decisions. So which of these 7 habits are you actively working to eliminate? Because real strength isn't something you announce. It's the pattern of decisions you make when nobody is there to validate you.